So we are still adding another 4 minutes. Please mute your mic if you are joining us. So by 9:10, that's 9:10, we'll be starting the class. Okay, good evening, guys. I think we can start. I guess we have a handful of guys in the class, so let's go ahead and start. Good evening and welcome once more to today's session. In today's session, we will be looking at, I think we're gathering information. Sorry, let me. Okay, so let's go on. I think we are live, and then for the sake of the data protection regulatory laws, we will be seeking our permission so that we can record the class, right? So, and I guess we have done this before now, and that permission is being sought after and granted. So today we'll be looking at we'll be looking at, information gathering. And I guess by now, everybody, or some of us at least, would have played around our Kali Linux operating system. So today we'll be looking at information gathering, right? Like those of us that have gone through the Kali Linux practicals, we'll see how we can delve into some of the items there and see the type of information we can use, some of the tools in the Kali Linux machine to, to gather information, and also look at several other open source tools that we can use to gather information, right? So that is what we'll be doing today. First of all, we'll hit our Kali machine up and then use some of the embedded tools there to see how information can be gathered. And then we leverage on other open source tools, just like we have said, right? So let's go ahead straight up and then start with that. But before we do that, I would like to take a review from just two persons. The person that has finished the InfoSec Linux Plus course. I don't know if you're in class, you can go ahead and tell us your journey so far. How was it? Was it stressful? And then let's hear from you, please. If you're in class, please go ahead and tell us more about how the whole thing was. So Shamsuddin Mohammed, you can unmute your mic and talk to us. Yes, about the fundamental. Go ahead.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly.
Good evening. So you said I should speak about the experience on the course, right?
Well, yes, of course.
Yeah,
of course.
Yes, the course, it's interesting. The only thing that the guy is a bit boring, but he's quite informative, and I think the advice I'll have with other co-participants is that whenever he's trying to do one or two that is showing on the screen, I think we should follow him up so I'll be able to be familiar with some of the commands that is typing. Because that was what I did actually. As he is doing all those things, I powered my virtual machine alongside the training. So most of the commands, I try them and then I see how they work. So that's all I can say. And then I really enjoyed it. So.
Okay, nice one. So as the first person that was able to finish up that course, you have a gift of some data from.
Come again, sir. My network is
so we'll be subscribing to carry on other of your courses. So that will be your price for completing.
Okay, thank you so much. Although I didn't hear you very clearly about the price, but I really thank you, and I will get up the update of what you said. I'm sure I'll follow up on what you said.
Okay, well, let's also hear from Charles Avu. Charles Avu. So how was the journey so far? Actually, Charles, you will not be getting our prize. That is because Shamsuddin finished before everybody, and that is why Shamsuddin is getting a prize. So Charles, let's hear from you. How is the journey so far?
Okay. Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mr. Peter. Yeah, am I being heard? Hello,
yes,
am I being
heard? Clearly. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was a great experience, but just like Shamsuddin said, I think that the man was not really the way the class was. If you don't have a bit of prior knowledge, it can be a lot to handle. But thank God that we had been taking some classes with you from the beginning, where you introduced a lot of things about the Kali Linux platform. So because of that, it was easy to go through it. So it was quite a lot, a lot. But some of the things he was mentioning, I thought they will appear on the screen too, but actually there were things that you had already touched on in class. So I was able to go through that. But it was really quite very informing. And I think it's a path that I would love to follow, because there's so much that you can do if you have the knowledge of this Linux, CompTIA Linux. Thank you so much. It was a great learning experience for me. I particularly like the user, the Linux kernel, the information about the Linux kernel and how the X Windows and the different GNU UIs play. That interplay was quite interesting for me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so it's a nice one. Please, so let everybody go ahead, look at those courses. They're actually free of charge for now. We wouldn't know when InfoSec is going to, make it sellable, right? So let's go ahead and look at that. That skill set is actually a hands-on skill set that can, land you in, land you a job as a system administrator. So it's not something that you just play around with, or you just play about it, right? So it's something you play around with and have a full knowledge of it. So thank you guys, those of us that are finished. Thank you, those of us that have not finished, please go ahead and look at it and ensure that you finish. There are actually a lot of things. There are also certifications you can take to be a Linux Plus certified expert, right? And even with that, you can gain remote jobs in addition to what you do, right? So that is why we actually showing us some of these courses so that we take them. The essence is so you can have, the skill set that you can actually work for an organization remotely, in addition to maybe what you are doing, right? So thank you guys for all that you have done. The next thing we'll be doing is to hit up our Linux command. Except and otherwise, somebody else has something to say to us as concerning their journey so far. Otherwise, we'll go ahead, hit up our Linux command, and then look at some other things that were not covered in the Linux Plus, and also gather information, because today it's all about information gathering, right? So permit me, I'm going to share my screen so that we can start our practicals the way it should be, or to cover up the topics that we are supposed to discuss today, right? So I hit up my Linux box, and then let it come up, and then we power on a particular machine. So I'm launching my Oracle VM. Okay. So this is it. So I'll just power on my Kali machine. So I have a lot of them here. So whichever one I want to use, it's actually the same. But like I told us before now, if you are using the Ubuntu, there are actually some commands or tools that you might want to use that you have to go about installing them. And also one of the importance of using importance of learning from the InfoSec platform that we gave to us. It actually provides us with a lot of commands on what to do about installation, some of the tools, like those of us that have seen some of the tools, the OpenSSL tools, how you can implement encryption and also decrypt files and all whatnot, right? They are all embedded, all of these are embedded tools that comes with the Linux machine. So please, those of you that have not taken that course, it will do you good to go ahead and look at it, right? It will do you good to go ahead and look at it. Please ensure that you finish those courses, the CompTIA Linux Plus Fundamentals and the Linux Plus certification course. Because when you finish that course, you can actually go for the Linux certification exam. That course is actually a course guide for the Linux certification exam. So for those of us that are just joining or does not have full knowledge of what we are talking about, we introduced us in our last class to the InfoSec platform. The InfoSec platform, and we leverage on some of the free courses on the InfoSec platform. And like I told us, at the course of this, our learning will be exposing us to a lot of other platforms. There are actually a lot of them, right? But for today, what we want to look at are those tools that can help us, gather information. Those tools that can help us gather information. So first of all, we want to leverage on the tools on Kali Linux or Linux-based tools that we can use to, gather information, right? So during the course of our study, I believe some of us might have, seen or made use of of some of these commands we'll be looking at. So one of those commands we'll be looking at is the ping command. We call it ping, the ping command. I believe those of us that have, gone through all of this might have seen some of these commands. So we'll look at the ping command. That will be our first command that we use in gathering information. Like I told us, the ping command, I think I told us in one of our classes, that the ping command is actually a command that we use to, handshake a target machine, for instance, to know if a machine is actually on, if a machine is actually alive. So the ping command is used to create or to make a handshake. For instance, I can say ping google.com, for instance. So if I do this, it will ping Google and tell me that, okay, it's getting 64 bytes from this. So in essence, the IP address here is the Google IP address that is, being replied back to me, right? So this is information we are gathering, right? For instance, google.com, the website, but you don't know their IP address, right? So just pinging google.com will fetch information from the Google's website, giving you also the IP address from Google, right? And those of us that have attended some of my classes have told us that whenever you see a number of bytes coming from a particular location, it means that location is alive. And so therefore it's handshaking the particular, this is your system that you're using. So for instance, what I just did here is I am telling my system to try and shake with google.com. So what is happening here is just me saying, hello, google.com. And google.com is giving me a reply. And you can see the reply is 64 bytes in size, right? And it's coming from this particular address, this particular IP address. So this is an IP address in Google. And just like we can establish, we have, if I'm maybe an investigator, definitely I know that, okay, there's this IP address within the Google network, right? And as such, I've been able to get an information from google.com, right? So that is what ping is. So you can decide to want to learn more about ping. For those of us that have learned of the commands or that have looked at those Linux courses, I guess most of these commands I'll be using will be familiar with them. So like the clear, we use it to clear our screen. So for instance, we can still decide to man ping, right? Man ping. By manning ping, we are looking at the manual of ping, right? So you can see it sends ICMP echo request to network host. So what is an ICMP echo request, right? So first of all, this is an internet control message protocol. That is what ICMP stands for. And it is a protocol that operates in the network layer of our OSI model. I believe we understand or we know what the OSI model is, right? We have 7 layers of the OSI model, right? So the ICMP protocol operates in layer, layer 3. If you are going from down upward, which is the network layer, right? So the OSI layer, I guess we can still see my screen. we have the application, we have the presentation, we have the session, we have the transport, we have the network, we have the data link, and we have the physical layer. Right? So these are the 7 layers of the OSI model. You can decide to count it from 1 down and do it this way, right? I guess we can still see my screen clearly. So let me do this. Five, layer 6, and layer 7. So you can count, you can look at it from downward, from down upward, or from up downward, right? So if I say layer 3, I'm referring to this layer, which if you are looking from up downward, it is layer 5, right? But most times we consider it from down upward: physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, and application layer. So when I'm talking of layer 3, always know that I'm referring to the network layer, right? So the ICMP echo or the ICMP protocol operates in the network layer. So what this does is to send a request in the network layer to check if there's network on the other system, right? So the moment there's network on the other system, it gives you a reply. And that is what we saw when we did the pinging, right? So most times ping is just like a hello, trying to establish, connect, trying to establish a connection with your host network. So you can go ahead, man ping just like I have done, and read all other informations on ping, right? So we can use the count options. Those of us that have gone through that course, by now I believe we understand what options are, right? How you can, narrow down your search, or narrow down the result of a particular command to, a smaller or a filtered kind of search. So we can use the count command to limit, the what we did. For instance, if we did ping, for instance, ping google.com, you see that it keeps going, it keeps pinging it and getting reply, right? But we can add an option by doing something like ping google.com, then we add a count, right? An option to count to 1, right? So what we just did now is to add the -c, and we specify the number or the attribute we want it to count as. So if I do this, you notice that my ping will just return just 1 packet, right? And it will stop counting. But if somebody say ping to the count of 10 billion, depending on whatever, right? You can decide to do this, and it will continue pinging until it gets to this, amount that you have counted it. And if you do this, at times there are ways you can do this to cause or refer to as the ping of death. So that is where that idea of ping of death comes about. It's a type of a distributed denial of service attack. Because if this ping is coming from multiple systems, let's say from 1 billion computer systems, right? And it's targeting a particular target, right? For the fact that this ping is fetching information, right? 64 bytes, 64 bytes, 64 bytes. So we have 1,000 or 1 billion systems fetching 64 bytes of information from this website, this google.com, which is this IP address. It definitely can cause a denial of service attack. And that is what we refer to as the ping of death, right? And that is the whole idea, or most of the ideas around denial of service attacks. So ping, for instance, can be used for several things. One, it can be used for, to gather, information, right? It can also be used to establish connection. It can also be used to cause a denial of service attack, and so many other things. So that command we are saying is quite very important, and that is what most hackers always make use of it. That knows how to tweak ping, right? They always make use of it to gather information. For instance, I can decide to create what we refer to or what we can refer to as a ping sweeper, right? A ping sweeper and sweep through the network or through a network that we are sitting on, right? So we can decide to do that, and then it will sweep through our network that we are sitting on. So maybe we'll look at that as we progress, right? Look at a ping sweeper as we progress. But like I've told us, the ping is a very important tool. And it's actually, a one-off shop for all hackers, right? So they can use that to, carry out any form of hack that they want to, carry out. Some of us that have attended our class before, I think we have created a ping sweeper that helps sweep through the network you are sitting on, and it will fetch out all the IP addresses that are live. So that is what a ping sweeper can, or the ping command can help us achieve. The next command we'll be looking at is the whois command. Now, let's understand that the Linux machine or the Linux-based kernel or Linux-based operating system comes with some of these tools or most of these tools installed in them, right? So the whois command is another command you use to find out information about a particular target, right? So the whois command, you can do whois google.com, right? Or whois an IP address, right? So when you do whois, okay, Mr. Charles, you can go ahead and then drop your, okay, go ahead and say what you want to say. Your hand is up. Mr. Okay. Charles.
Thank you so much. Hello, I just wanted to ask if it is possible to, with the ping command, is it possible that from knowing the IP address, access can be gained to that particular computer through the knowledge of just the IP address?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Charles. Now, access might not be made to just having the knowledge of an IP address, but it gives you an idea of what type of IP address your target is using. Now we are looking at information gathering, and we should understand that when we do information gathering, the idea is to understand what your target is about or who your target is, right? So for instance, if I know the IP address we are using, and you know that it wasn't just the IP address we got here, we got also the domain, the what's it called now? This is the domain. Is it I forgot not the gateway now. This is the, what's it called again? Like for instance, this is where it is hosted, right? This is the location whereby this Google is hosting this IP address, right? This is the server location. So for instance, I can also do some more footprinting or more information gathering about this to know, the kind of vulnerabilities that can be attached to this particular location, right? So I can decide to do some more information gathering based on these information that I've gotten. Now I've gotten their IP address, I'll just take note of it and write it down, right? So if I'm firing my attacks, I'm not firing my attacks to this word, google.com, because at times my attacks might not, recognize this word, google.com, right? But it will recognize the IP address. So if you are launching an attack, some of the tools you'll be leveraging on will not know how to, how to what's it called, to resolve this IP address now, right? But with this, there will not be some of the tools will not be able to, resolve this web address. But with the IP address, it will be easier for such tools to, resolve and carry out what they want to carry, right? So I can take that information, paste it, and then do some more footprinting or information gathering about it, right? So that is just what it's what you can get there. But to say whether that can help you maybe hack the system, it might not in totality help you hack the system, because definitely there will be security in place. But at least you have a full knowledge of what their IP address is, right? And you also have a full knowledge of the platform they are hosting their website, right? So that is just that. What we are just doing is showing us tools that you can use to, carry out information gathering. So we are just gathering information here. I guess you understand that, Mr. Charles.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so we're looking at another tool, which is the whois.com. So what we are just doing here is whoisgoogle.com, right? You still want to gather more information. And if you do that, you'll notice that it will fetch some information about Google for us, right? Those of us that can, I guess we can see my screen clearly. So it is giving us information about Google, right? So if you look from the beginning, it's telling you domain name is google.com. Registry domain ID is this, right? This is the registry domain ID. The registrar whois server is this. So the whois server that this domain is registered on is this. The update date, the updated date, this is the date it was updated, right? Last. The creation date, this is the date it was created, right? Registry expiry date is 2028, right? So for an hacker can just decide to be targeting informations like this and notice that, okay, this thing is going to expire on these dates, this time, right? So what he will just do is to write his own malicious code that at this day and this time, if these people are unable to maybe update this, then fire this type of attacks on it, right? So an attacker can do that. It's giving you, okay, registrar, Mac Monitor Incorporated is the registrar's name. Ayana, this is the Internet Association of, what's the full meaning again? Ayana, so you can go ahead, search on that and know what it is, right? The ID assigned to them, because this is, I think, international, I've forgotten, but just Google it, you'll see it. Registrar abuse contact email, right? Then registrar abuse contact phone number, this. So if you look at it, it's actually providing information about that particular website. Now, let's also understand that at times going to gather information like this is actually what we refer to as passive information gathering, right? This type of information gathering will not, bug or disturb the website, right? The target machine, right? Actually, this what whois is giving to us is what we refer to as passive information gathering. That is what we are doing with whois. But when we did ping is active because it's trying to handshake and get information for us, right? So it's what ping is doing is going there and getting and making sure that there's a reply from that guy. So either the reply will be that the guy is not on, or the reply will be that the guy is on, right? So ping is active, but whois is passive. Now this whois information is an information that is registered somewhere already, right? So what we are just doing is to go and fetch it from that database, right? And that is why it's passive. So while we are doing this, it does not, does anything to the network or to the target system. Now, let me take a little more time to explain what passive and active information gathering is. Passive information gathering is an information gathering that you are carrying out without contacting or directly having contact with your target machine or target system or organization, right? While active is the one that you have direct contact with the target machine. So for instance, if I decide to learn about Mr. Charles and I go to Google or Facebook and I start searching for Mr. Charles, right? What I am doing is passive because Mr. Charles might not even know that I am actually searching for him. I'm not even, I'm contacting him. He does not even know, he does not have any foreknowledge of that. Now that is passive. But when I decide to maybe get Mr. Charles' phone number and call him, or I just get his phone number without knowing his name, I now call him and say, oh, please, am I on to Mr. Charles? And he said, yes, you are on to Mr. Charles. Now that is an active information gathering. So I'm gathering this information, contacting or, having to talk to Mr. Charles, contacting him directly. So there's actually a contact here. So if you look at what we just did now, using ping and using WHOIS, ping actually went to the network and is fetching information. It's giving us a reply from our target. That is to say, there's a contact, it has contacted our target and it's giving us a reply. But the WHOIS that we are using here today now, WHOIS is just fetching information from a database, the WHOIS database, the IANA database, because we actually have a database whereby when you register a domain name, it is stored in that database. So that is where this information is being fetched from, right? So WHOIS is just being there to get that information and displays to us. So that is just the difference between passive and active information gathering, right? So if we look at WHOIS also, we can look at the name server of the organization, right? Now, some attackers can just be studying and be looking for, flaws on the name server you are using, right? And please let us also know that at times when you gather some type of information, in as much as, or if they are, active, kind of, right? It actually will, the firewall on your target machine might actually see it. Because what it's doing is you are going into that network to get information, right? And that is why you see at times some organization, they block or prevent ICMP echo messages from hitting their organization. So you cannot ping them. So when you run a ping and it's not giving you a reply, you know that, okay, you cannot ping that organization because your firewall is preventing that. So some smaller organizations that cannot handle attacks like this will definitely prevent that or filter that out using their firewalls, right? So at times if they filter that out using firewalls, you won't get information about them or you won't get information from that organization. So like I was saying, some hackers can start studying or look around to get vulnerabilities around this type of name servers, right? So they can decide to, let me see. They can decide to look it up on Google to see if there are vulnerabilities established, on this type of name server. They will, think of how to exploit them and then go about exploiting them, right? So that is how they make use of that. Now, if you look down also, you see when it was last updated. It was updated on the 19th of May, 2022. So you notice that these guys are up to date, right? The information here is up to date. So expiry date displayed in the record. So you can go ahead, read through to see the information. Now they have the VeriSign certificate signed on. You can look at so many of the information here. Now, notice that we are using google.com. Now, it is not all organizations that might be this secure, kind of, right? So if you play around some of these organizations, you can get information that you can use for so many things, right? Here, and like I told us, it's all about information gathering. Some organizations will even register with the authentic phone numbers. Social engineers can take these phone numbers and start calling you. Hello, am I speaking with Mr. So and so person who is the registrar now? Because in some organization, you see that the name that will be in the registrar's name will be the registrar, the person that registered it, right? And the phone number will be that of the person that registered it, right? And if you look at all of those things, you can easily, call the person and claim to be maybe a service provider that is trying to see how you can, or you want to help the organization, solve a particular problem, but while you are actually carrying out social engineering on that person, right? So if you look at some targets, it might be the name of the person here and the person's phone number. So what I'm saying in essence is this. This is actually Google, and we are using it. On other targets, other machines, if you use the WHOIS, it will give you, several information about your target machine. You can also go ahead and man the WHOIS, right? Let's go ahead and man WHOIS. But before we do that, let me minimize my screen. So I'll clear my screen. Let me man WHOIS. Let's see if there's a manual for WHOIS, right? So you can see there's actually a manual for WHOIS. It's saying the name is WHOIS, client for the WHOIS directory service, right? Then you can see the synopsis, how to use it. You can do WHOIS, then space, the host name, right? You can also do WHOIS --help version and all whatnot. They give you a description here. WHOIS searches for an object in the RFC 3912 database, right? So you can go ahead, put this on Google and know what it is. Now, this database is the database that I was talking about that contains all the, all the IP addresses that are being hosted online and issued out to businesses, right? So there's a database for it. So the WHOIS goes there to fetch it, and it does not have anything to do with the organization. So there are several other options also here that you can, use with your WHOIS, command. So you can go ahead, look at some of them, and then try them out. Okay, somebody is saying great presentation, but my question is, the software to use is VM virtual to be downloaded, right? Okay, I really don't understand the question clearly, but let me, say this. What we are doing is we have actually worked ourselves through virtualization technology. So we have successfully loaded or installed the Oracle VM workstation, which we have loaded the Kali Linux operating system on it, right? And that is what we are using for our class. Also, we have been able to walk us through some free learning platforms where we got our hands dirty with, the Linux operating system. That is through the InfoSec learning platform, right? So we looked at the Linux Plus fundamentals, as the CompTIA Linux fundamentals, and then the CompTIA Linux Plus, right? So you can go to infosec.com and create an account with them. It's actually a free course. You can take it there. So we have done all of that. And so what we are just doing now is we just came and launched our Linux machine, and we are looking at some of the tools in our Linux machine, right? So that is what we are actually doing now. So you can go ahead, man your Linux, your WHOIS, and then look at it or play around it, right? So that is that. Let's also look at another command. Now, this command we are going to look at might be the, not infosec, we said infosec, right? Infosec.com, right? So just search for it, not infosec, right? Okay, so another command I want us to look at, there are several of them, right? And if you come to our, all programs in our Linux terminal and navigate to information security, information gathering, you can see that there are a lot of them, right? There's NetDiscover, there's Martego, there are so many of them, right? Let me see the USINT analysis. We still have Martego, we still have the Harvester. So the Harvester is another very fine tool. So there are a lot of them, right? I think in one of our classes, we looked at NetDiscover, right? To discover the IP addresses that are, associated to the router you are sitting on, right? So you can still go ahead and look at it. We also looked at, this is NetDiscover, right? And this is the help. So NetDiscover, what is the device, the range of IP address. If it is a file, you can load the file and then look at it. So go ahead and look at NetDiscover. You can still just type NetDiscover to just fetch all of it out for you, right? So if it does this, you add the sudo. Remember, when you need a superior user, account, so you can still go ahead and do this. NetDiscover will just fetch out all of the IP address associated to the network for you, right? So that is what it does. So if you are sitting on a network, you can actually use that NetDiscover to, look at all the networks that are sitting with you. Martego is another fine tool, very, very interesting tool. But I think there's a license, you have to license, you have to gain the license to be able to use it well, right? So Martego, you can also go about looking at it. I just type yes to proceed. They say we'll install the following packages. So I type yes and it's installing, right? The Recon NG also is another very nice tool. All of these tools, you can look at them. I'll just look at one of these tools, which is the Nmap. It's actually a very interesting tool. So we'll spend most of our time looking at that, right? So this is the Recon NG. And one beautiful thing about all of this is that you can do your research on them, look at them, how to use them, and play around them, right? So there are actually a lot of tools there for you. So, but let's look at our Nmap, right? Still in information gathering, we have the Nmap, right? So look at Nmap and then play around Nmap to see the beauty of Nmap, right? So Nmap is actually, if you do, you can go ahead and manage. You can go ahead and man the Nmap, right? So it's actually a beautiful tool that we, use to do a lot of things, right? The Nmap can be used to do a lot of things. We call it mapper. So what it does is to map out your network depending on what you expect to get from it, right? So I can use Nmap to scan through a particular network, for instance, and even use it to, cause harm to that network. So Nmap will scan through my network, fetch, information about all the ports that are opened and the ports that are closed, right? Now, what are ports? I believe we should have a little knowledge on what ports are. So ports are just like the word portal, right? Opening, an opening, right? So that is where the word is coming from, portal, right? An opening, either an entrance or an exit, was a portal, a port. So it allows something to come into the system or go out of the system or network, right? So in as much as there is an entry point or an exit point in your system, organization, network, whatever it is, right, that has an identity. I always refer to anything that has an identity, right? Any entity that has an identity in the network space, I refer to it as, a network or an endpoint, right? So any entrance into any of these endpoints, right, is what we refer to as port. And every endpoint has 65,535 entry or exit points, otherwise referred to as ports, right? So if you have 65,535 entry or exit points, it therefore means that anybody can actually come in or go out if these are not blocked or taken care of, if these ports are not, filtered or handled properly, right? So Nmap is a tool that does not just gather information, right, or scan through your system. What it does is it goes as far as detecting or determining the ports on your target that are open and the ports that are closed. And it will also tell you the services that are running on this port. Now, by services, it means what is this port actually doing? What service is the port running on your system, right? So that is what Nmap will do. It will tell you the service, the port number, right? And the type of protocol that is running on that port. So for instance, if you have a gate, you have 10 gates in your organization, right? In all of those gates around the organization, there should be a gate that maybe only the MD is allowed to pass through, right? There's another gate that maybe only the normal staffs are allowed to pass through. There should be a gate that maybe, okay, the important staffs are allowed to pass through. Now, these are services that these gates are rendering. So that is what we have in ports, right? There are some ports that, allows for a particular type of service to run through them, right? So an attacker can decide to leverage on that service that is running through that port, because at times there are some ports that are established already. The services are established on those ports. For instance, like our port 443, we all know that it is the HTTPS port. That's the Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, a secure port, cross 443, right? And we also all know that port 80 is our HTTP port. That's the service that runs on port 80. So these are established ports. So an hacker knows. You as an hacker, you should know that, okay, this service, when I see this type of port, this is the service that runs on this port. If I see this type of port, this is the service that runs on this port, right? And then you know the type of attack to fire through that port, right? So Nmap is a tool. In fact, this is one of the most important tools that all hackers use, because if you look at it, it starts from discovering your host, right? Host discovery. It tells you the type of operating system that your target is using. Almost all the information about your target it's being determined, by Nmap, can be determined by Nmap, right? You can also specify okay, this is target specific. You can also, okay, this is scanning techniques. You can specify the number of ports that you want it to scan. Now, there are some ports that can be filtered by a firewall. So Nmap can actually force that port to be scanned also, right? To detect the services that are running on your target machine. Then Nmap scripts. There's another technique for Nmap script. This Nmap script, what it does is, these are just like, programs that have been written. Okay, Charles, can you go ahead and ask your question, please? Mr. Charles, go ahead.
Okay, I noticed that when I tried running the man Nmap on my Ubuntu terminal, it said no manual entry for Nmap. So I don't know if it's something that is reserved for only the Kali distribution distro. Hello? Hello, am I being heard? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. You said are you using Ubuntu?
Yes, I'm using Ubuntu.
Okay, just type nmap. Did you just type nmap?
Okay, let me do that now. I tried it earlier. I
Don't
tried the
mind,
map.
just
Okay, I
type
shouldn't mind.
nmap and press enter.
Okay. Oh, it's saying command nmap not found, but can be installed with sudo. Okay. Okay. So I can install it.
Yeah, you can go ahead and install. I told us, those of us using Ubuntu, most of the commands we're using, you have to be installing them, right? But those of us that are
Okay.
using the Kali, some of these commands comes embedded in them. And I told us why. Because, you know, these various distros that we have are being developed by people. They just pick up the Kali and worked on them. So everybody has the way they did theirs. But for Kali, you know, is like, you know, developed for hackers, right? For forensic investigators, right? So most of the tools that you, instead of you going about installing in other distributions, right? Those tools are already installed in Kali. That is why, for me, I always advise you to use Kali, right? But if you install them, the same commands that we are running runs in all of them. Is that okay? Okay. So, like I was explaining, Nmap has scripting. So some of those scripts can actually be used to fire. These are like, you know, programs that have been written. So instead of you know, using some of the options of Nmap to, you know, do some type of scans that you want to do, you can actually easily, you know, fire up a script and make use of that, right? So we'll go ahead and then play around Nmap. Let me do this and see. Okay. My system seems to be hanging, so give me a while. So my system was hanging, so let me restart it. So let's wait a while for my system to come up so that we can continue. But like I was explaining, Nmap is actually a tool for every, you know, whether you're an investigator, whether you're an hacker, a penetration tester, whether you're a SOC analyst, whatever you are, or whoever you are in the organization, the Nmap is actually a handy tool for you to use and carry out any type of information gathering you want to carry out. Now, for those of us that you know, started with us, we explained about, you know, information gathering and scanning as you know, the two most important, you know, aspect or stages of hacking. You know, we told us that there are 5 stages actually that ranges from information gathering to scanning, right? And then we move to, you know, gaining access, maintaining access, and then clearing, uncovering traps, right? So conventionally, that is what everybody will tell you that are the stages or phases of hacking, right? But you know, if we are looking at it from organization perspective, there are actually several ways to look at it. We might not be covering them today, since we have, you know, scoped our class to you know, maintain these 5 stages, right? But like the Nmap I'm talking about, Nmap can be used for both, information gathering, which is the first stage, and also for scanning. It's actually, more about scanning, right? Nmap is more about scanning, right? But what it does is it helps you gain more information about a particular target machine. So for instance, like Charles that asked if there was any need to gain the IP address of a target organization, right? So you can decide to want to write a short script using Nmap. So if you're doing that, you use your IP address or the IP address of the organization. Now, some organizations might also mask their IP address, that what you are seeing is not actually what is showing, or what is actually showing you, right? So they can actually mask their IP, but some organization does not even understand all of these things. So they are always very porous. You can actually go ahead and then do that. So we are looking at Nmap, right? So I just typed Nmap, and then it ran. So let me zoom out my screen so that we can see it clearly. So I was explaining all of this, like, there's OS detection on it. You can use it to, detect the type of operating system that your target machine is running on, right? And if you scroll down, they also give you example of how you can use Nmap, right? How you can use Nmap. So let's go ahead and use Nmap. Now, normally what we are supposed to be doing in this class is to, we are not supposed to, carry out any information gathering or anything across our machine, right? Across this machine, because like I told us initially, that is a crime, right? If you carry out any activity over the network that you don't have a permission, you don't have their permission, right? A written permission, you are actually committing a crime, right? So most times when we do things like this, play around some of the websites, like I played around Google, there are actually some pages whereby Google will allow you to play around to see if you can actually, gain access to some of their to maybe a particular vulnerability on their website. Then you contact them and publish and then publish that vulnerability and help them solve that vulnerability. So there are actually opportunities or features like that, right? But please, when you're doing this, don't go over your network, except it is your organization. Not just that your organization, except you are the owner of what, or you have set up, a sandbox whereby you want to carry out some of these practicals, right? Before you can actually do that. So most times, it's advised that you load more than one operating system. You can use the other one as your target machine, while the other one can be your attack machine. So I want to power on my Ubuntu so that some of the practice I'll be carrying out, using the Kali as the target, the attack machine, and then the Ubuntu as the target machine, right? Or better still, even without powering this, I can use my Windows operating system that I'm sitting on to be my target machine, right? So maybe that is what I will just do so that we don't run into our systems hanging again. So let me do this. Let me just put this machine off. So I'll use my my Windows machine for the targets as the target machine, right? So let me go ahead and then look at my command prompts and see my IP address. Now this is my Windows machine. This is my Windows machine. So let's see. If I do IP config, I believe we all know this. It will give me the IP address of my Windows machine, right? So let me try to ping it from here and then see. Let me try to ping it from my Linux machine. So I have 192.168.167.239. So I'm pinging my Windows machine, right? This is the IP address of my Windows machine now. And I just want to ping it, and I'm pinging it, and it's giving me a reply. You can see 64 bits from this guy. That's to say there's actually a connection here, right? So I can go ahead and run my Nmap scan on it, right? So like I told us, you can just go ahead. Let's just run the Nmap without any switch and then see what it gives to us, right? Then after that, we can look at other things. Okay, now it's telling us, okay, Nmap, starting Nmap, pull seams down if it is really up, but blocking our ping, try -pn. So the firewall might be preventing it from running. So they say we should add -pn, right? So let's see again what will happen, right? So what I'm doing now, I'm actually pinging my machine, right? I'm pinging my machine. Note, I'm not going out of my network, right? Because I don't have a written permission from any organization to make use of their website. And that's why I'm using my own machine, right? So I have pinged my machine, or I've run the Nmap scan on my machine, and I use the -pn. If you do your man Nmap, you will know what -pn stands for. It's actually trying to bypass the firewall that is preventing me from scanning. Now, definitely we all know that the Windows operating system has the Windows firewall that tries to filter or prevent some type of scans from happening. So that was what was happening here until I now attached the -pn, right? There are several switches you would like to, or you might also want to attach, right? We'll look at that. So it's telling me now that, okay, Microsoft RPC, that's remote PC. Microsoft remote PC is running on port 35, which is a TCP port, right? On port 39, I have my NetBIOS SSN is running there and it's open. On port 389, I have LDAP running there. What is LDAP again? That's a local desktop application or something running there. On port 445, I have the Microsoft DS running there. On port 639, I have the LDAP SSL running there. On port 2179, so it's giving me information about the open ports that are on my Windows machine, right? And the services that are running on them. I guess we understand that. Now, this is actually enough information for any hacker, right? Because what an hacker will do is to go to maybe an exploit database and search for all the exploit codes that he can use to fire on this type of service, right? Or he will look for all the exploit code that he can use to fire on this type of ports, right? And starts firing them on the port or the service, right? So whether through the service or through the port, most times, most ports, there are no, codes for attacks on them because are just entry. So what they are attacking most times are the services, right? The services running on the ports. That is what they are attacking most times. So if this is the service, I'll look for a vulnerability or an exploit that can be used on this and then fire it. So as I was saying, the attacker will just look for the vulnerability or the exploit rather that he can use and fire on this particular type of service. And when he's specifying the port, he will specify port number, right? So that is what an attacker does. So Nmap helps us. For instance, we have run Nmap now. We now notice that, okay, we have all of these ports open, right? You can also fine tune your Nmap and add other switches, like the dash O. In the dash O stands, helps us detect operating system, right? Let's see, okay, dash O option require double argument. Let's see this. So fingerprinting, okay, TCP/IP fingerprinting for OS requires root privilege. So for it, since they say for us to scan for the OS, we require root privilege. Let's add our sudo to it, right? So it's starting our Nmap, right? So what we just did here is to add the dash O. If you look at that Nmap, when you look at the items under Nmap, we notice that dash O is to detect the operating system. So if you look at this result now, it's giving us a warning here. Result may be unreliable because we couldn't find at least one open and one closed port, right? And it's saying, okay, device is breached, right? And general purpose. So it's just giving us some more information about this. Now, if you look at what it's saying here, running, just guessing, it says running an Oracle VirtualBox 97% and QEMU 91%. So it's actually guessing what type of operating system this guy is running. So for instance, it's detecting that I am sitting on, a VirtualBox, right? So these are two types of virtual boxes, the Oracle VirtualBox and QEMU, right? So OSCP, VirtualBox, aggressive OS guesses Oracle VirtualBox, which definitely gives you an information or a knowledge that, okay, this person is actually, sitting on a VirtualBox, right? So that is what, Nmap does. If you even go ahead and do more to gather more information about Nmap so that we can use some of the options. Let's see which option we can use. So the dash O that we used initially, you can see it's for OS and detection. We can also look at where is dash P. This dash P is to specify the ports. Maybe if you don't have time to scan for all of the ports, you can use dash P, then you specify the port. Then remember we use dash PN. Dash PN is like treat all hosts as online, right? So whether it is being blocked by your firewall or not, the dash PN helps you to treat all of it as as if they are online, right? Then if you add the SM disable port scan, right? That's if you don't want to scan for ports, you can use the SM, right? So you can go ahead, look at all of it, and then use what you want to actually use, right? So that is that for the Nmap. Like I told us, please go ahead, play around some of them. You can see the dash SS scanning techniques. You want to scan, and maybe you want to add some more techniques. You can use them and try them out, right? So you can also probe open ports to determine services and information that if those informations are not given to you, right? And so on and so forth. So if maybe a firewall is making it, is preventing it, you can actually break it into fragment and give a result, right? Using the dash small letter F. So there are actually a lot to know about Nmap. And also, there's what we refer to as, there's what we call the Nmap cheat sheet. So you can go online, just look for a cheat sheet on Nmap. You'll see some of the easy combinations, how attackers combine some of all of these, options or features here to smoothly search for, a particular thing they are searching for, right? So I can say, okay, let's ask the -V also to scan for version of the operating system that is using. Discover this open port. You can see adding the version, you can see how our scans are, right? So it's discovering our open ports on these. All of these ports are open, right? So you can see them, they are all open. No exact OS matches for hosts. It couldn't detect the OS, but it's telling us we are sitting on a virtual box. What information can we get here again? Okay, so this is how you just play around with your Nmap. So you can go ahead, look around, and then do some more research on the Nmap, and then practice them, right? So another tool we'll look at is the trace route. The trace route or the trace sats. So on Windows, you can call them trace sats, while on Linux, we can call them trace route, right? So we are tracing this route, 192.168.167.239, right? 192.168.167.239. So we want to trace the route, right? So you can see that the route is very close. So it's just moving from our system to the next system. So it's actually within, we are sitting on the same system. So that is why our route is this way. But if we are tracing a route, for instance, like say google.com, so you notice that it will move from our system to the next available router to another router until it gets to the router hosting the Google's website, right? And as you can see, these are all security that they have put in place to actually prevent you from tracing their route, right? But trace route can actually trace you from a particular location to another, right? So if we do, let's try for facebook.com and see. So this is our own IP address. So it's supposed to move from this IP address to another, to another, to another. Okay, let's try that on our Windows machine. So on Windows machine, you use the trace sat. So we can trace sat, let's say google.com. So normally it's supposed to move from one hub to another, showing us all of the hubs that are involved in getting or in connecting my PC to Google's PC, right? That is what TraceSat helps us do, right? So you can see it's picking out some IP address. These are actually, routers that are sitting in between my computer system with the Google's computer system, which is a 216.58.223.206, right? So what I'm doing here is to trace from where I am to where they are, right? How many hubs are we going to, bypass? Because now the hubs helps the hacker to, determine how his, attack can move from one particular location to another, right? So that is what trace sat or trace route helps us achieve. So there are a lot of, commands we can actually use to determine what is it called, or to gather information actually, right? So we will be looking at some more, right? Just give me a while, let me take water. Okay, so that is that for that. Let me clear my screen. So like I have told us, let's go about, look at all of the tools around information gathering here, just like we did initially, or like we showed us, and then play around them, play around them, play around them, and then see what you can get. Now, you might not, master all of the tools, but at least you should know the ones that you should be able to play around with. Okay, let's see if we can look at the Avesta before, drawing the curtain for today, right? The Avesta, let me do this, let me increase this. Okay. So the Harvester is another tool that we can use to, harvest detailed information, a particular target, right? Most times, we also use this to harvest information like usernames, passwords that are attached, especially if they are not encrypted, right? They are attached to a particular website or a particular organization, right? So if you look at it, by just typing the Harvester, they'll tell you that the Harvester is used to gather open source intelligence on company or domain, right? And you can see some of the options that they have, the H for help and all whatnot, right? So let's go ahead and then try out a domain for this. I think for us to even do some of these types of things, we need to, have our own website where we'll be playing around with this. So maybe by our next class, I'll just look for a website that is, put on the bug bounty site for us that can allow us to play around with some of these commands, because when we do this over the internet, we actually, you're actually not doing it right? So, but let's see if we can make use of the Harvester. So I'll bring it up. Just give me a while. I think my system is still hanging. The Harvester. Right? The Harvester, let's say we are harvesting, let's say this, I want to see how we can specify or what we can specify here. Dash, let's say, okay, let's do this, -d, let's say google.com. This is the domain now. Let's say -b should be, let's say Bing. -b should be Bing. Okay, -f. I just want us to try out something so that let's see if we can get a result from it. Let's say username. And it's okay. Okay, let's do this. The Harvester is capital H. Okay, let's try and see. Now I will have to explain what we just did here. We specified, or we use the Harvester, we're telling it that we want to fetch, where is the command? Okay, so what we are telling the Harvester is we want to fetch from Google. So the -d is to specify the domain we want to get the information from, right? So the domain is the website we want to get the information from, right? So I'm telling the Harvester to go to this domain. There are people that are using a particular username, there are particular information called username, right? And they have used this information to create, an account with Bing, for instance. So this is my source. This is where the harvester is fetching this information from, right? But what the harvester is looking for all the people using, or all the information that has to do with username and Google, right? So for instance, if you are working with Google, right, and you have information like username, being that yes, you have this, maybe this is your username, right? And you're working with Google. What the harvester will do is to go to Bing and match all of this with this and then bring them out. So that is what we just told the harvester to do here, right? And so it went and searched in Google, right? And when it searched in Google, it's telling us that it did not find any IPs, it did not find any email, but he found 8 posts, right? And it's telling us that account.google.com on this IP address is existing, right? This same information is existing. This same information is all of these are information or hosts that are sitting on the Google machine, right? That an attacker can actually decide to start targeting them. So for instance, how is this important? It's important in the sense that these are actually subdomains, right? On the Google website. You just go and see google.com, right? But you will not be able to get these subdomains, right? So these are actually subdomains in google.com. You can see the actual google.com here, right? But you can see all other subdomains, and you can see their IP addresses are different. So the translate.google.com is a subdomain in Google. The support.google.com is another subdomain. Although this and this are on the same IP address, the myaccount.google.com is another subdomain. So the harvester helps you fetch out all of these subdomains within that organization website that you are looking for, right? So it helps you fetch out some of those information that you are looking for. That is what the harvester helps you do. It can also fetch out email addresses, right? So you can see it has opened this Google subdomain, right? The images.google.com is a subdomain hosted in the Google website, right? So you as an attacker can decide to hit all of these things differently, right? Because they are different from the normal google.com subdomain, the google.com domain that will all know about. So these are various subdomains. So the harvester can also fetch stuff like email. That is how you see attackers will just go and start fetching emails and start sending information to those email addresses. You'll be wondering how they got your email address. They must have used the harvester to fetch, this information, right? It can also, at times they can also, if you fetch maybe like 20 or 10 emails, they can also, use those emails to create what we refer to as a dictionary list of emails, whereby they can use other tools to, try, several passwords. We all know we have dictionary of passwords, but they can decide to try all those dictionary of password on these selected emails to see if they can gain access using your email to a particular, either a social media account or maybe your Gmail account or whatnot, right? So these are techniques that they use in doing all of this, right? So today we have been able to look at, some tools that, as an attacker or as an hacker or as an investigator, you should have, a foreknowledge of how, an hacker thinks, right? So that if, you are trying to carry out an investigation, you should, understand or think like the criminal itself, right? So another tool we look at is the OSINT framework. The OSINT framework is actually a framework tool that you can just use your Google and look for it. So it's not actually embedded in the Linux machine. So that one is a website. You can go to the OSINT framework and look at how to make use of several other tools. So just osintframework.com is the name of the website. So you can search that one even while you are sitting on your Kali Linux or while you are not on your Kali Linux. You can go ahead and search for the OSINT framework, right? It's taking a little more time to open here, but it will definitely open so that we see how it is used, right? I know some of us have, been seen or used the open OSINT framework before. Please go ahead and look at it. I don't know why that is taking a little more of our time to, to open. Let's see, OSINT framework.com, right? So let's look at that. Then after that, we will also, look at Google. Google is actually another type of, information gathering tool that use Google a lot to gather information. I don't know why the OSINT framework is taking much of our time to come up. And while we are waiting for that, let's also look at, Google, right? So Google is another way or another place where people gather information, especially the Google map itself, right? So there are times that, somebody can just decide to come and do an active reconnaissance of Peter, a passive reconnaissance of Peter Ode, right? So if not that this Peter Ode that we have here now is the deputy governor of Cross River State, you would have seen that, okay, there will be a lot of Peter Ode. Okay, I think my own Peter Ode is also showing here, right? So from the images we have here, you can actually easily say that, okay, these are the various Peter Odes that we have around, right? So you can see like my Peter Ode is here, and you can see other Peter Ode that are here, right? So even if you are looking for an image of somebody, they can just come here, pick this image of Peter Ode, go and create an account of Peter Ode, and start coming people, right? So that is why we will display too many pictures online, too many of your information shouldn't go online, right? Because they can actually be used for anything, right? So an attacker that has my address can just decide to knows that, okay, this is my picture, come to Google, search for Peter Ode, create an account with it, and use it to scam, right? I think before this guy became you always see my image come and make use of this information, right? And use them for whatever. Also, the Google Map is another nice, information gathering tool that is used, right? Back in, let me say, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, that is now changed. Or let's use another organization. Let's say, which other organization can we use? Let's say the CBN, for instance. I can just come and search for the CBN and then go to, maps, right? And go to maps, for instance. And definitely there are almost all the information I will need about the CBN is on that web page, right? I can also go to maps and start looking around, right? Where is the CBN? I'll start looking at it, right? I'll say, okay, let me look for directions to the CBN. Now, know that this is a kind of passive information gathering because they don't even know you are gathering information about them, right? But you can use this to, move around and then understand how the environment is, right? So we can say, okay, we can decide to do it this way, look at the landmass, how it is located, right? Where it is located, how to access it. I think let's get to do this. Let's get to look at it the more. I'll just come to my Google, drag this guy and drop here. So what I'm doing now is just gathering information about the CBN, right? Let's wait for it to come up. So I'm just trying to do the road view of CBN, the areas around CBN. Okay, where I drop my road view is actually not it. Let me see if I can get the CBN around here. So let me get back. I think my map dropped somewhere else. So, but you can see that somebody can actually use the Google map to, do a trace of the location of the organization he or she is trying to carry out an attack on, right? I'm trying to see where my CBN is. This is where I got to initially. Let's see. Is not where I wanted to get to. Okay, let me search for CBN again. I'm just trying to show us how you can get the local view of where you want to maybe carry out your attack on or something, right? So let's see if we get that. So the network is quite slow, but you can see these are just road maps of Abuja and all the areas around there. So you can actually get the physical, view of where you are targeting, right? What I really wanted is for me to have, if I've gotten this place now, I will just, drop this icon there, the street view icon on that location, and then let's walk around the venue, the location rather, right? So that is what I wanted us to achieve with it, but I think my network is quite slow and I'm not getting that clearly. Okay, so this is the CBN location that I'm getting. Let it come up, let it come up, let it come up. So normally, you can just pick the street view icon and drop it on that location, right? Let's drop it here. And then we view the location. So that is what some hackers do, because at times they might not even know the location of where they want to carry out the attack. So they can use this street view, go to that area, look at the area, and check to see the type of security that is around that area, the type of road that is around that area, because at times it might need that the hacker come to the location and maybe unplug something or maybe disconnect connectivity at a particular time and all whatnot, right? So something like that will warrant the attacker to maybe get a physical, access to that location. So you can use the Google map to, find your way through to that location or understand, what or where that location is, right? So all of these are actually tools you can use to gather information. For the slow network now, would have just played around and see how you can, look at the environment or the surroundings around here. So like I was telling us, most hackers leverage on every type of tools they can use to actually gather information, right? So they leverage on all of that, right? So that's how you can use your Google, your Google to try that. I don't know why the OSINT framework is not opening. Okay, yeah. So this is the OSINT framework that I was talking about, right? So like I told us, osintframework.com, right? So if you open the OSINT framework, you will see a lot of tools, right? That can be used. For instance, for username gathering, you want username search engines, name check. These are all different types of tools that you can use to check for usernames, right? Specific sites, you can check for usernames from Tinder, GitHub, Amazon, all of these things. So they are broken down into groups. If you come to email, or for emails, there are a lot of things you can search for, right? So you can search for emails that are under, that's them, this is a tool, that's them, Hunter is a tool, people is a tool, email to address is a tool, reverse Jenny email is another tool. So all of these are several tools you can use. So the framework is just like a database of tools that can help you, achieve, anything you want to achieve, right? If you want domain names, you can come to domain names. You can see the WHOIS record, just like we checked on the WHOIS record. Let me reduce some of this so that we can have enough space. For them, for others. Use our Kali to check, you can come here is a tool. And the moment you click on it, it takes you to the website, right? It takes you to the website of the organization. So you can put in the website or web address you are looking for, or you want to get information for, right? So when you just do that, it will start telling you. So this is the address lookup for google.com that I put, right? So it has given me all the various IP addresses, right? These are actually the aliases, right? So we can look for other stuff by taking this and their trace route that we tried doing the other time. So you can get proper information about google.com, right? So you can see all of this information. These are information, and this is their DNS record, their domain name server record. So any information you want about them, you can get them here, right? So the open OSINT framework is actually a database of tools, right? So whatever you want to search for or look for, just come here and search for them. Social analysis, URL expanders, and all whatnot. IP addresses, you want to search for pictures. There are some you just have to put the pictures and it will, fetch that picture for you, right? So you can go ahead and launch any of them that you want, right? So webcams, videos. So play around them, and then understand what the OSINT framework is used for. So you want to search for telephone numbers, you can come here. These are several tools you can use to search for telephone numbers. You can see our Truecaller is here also. You can also use it to search for telephone numbers, right? So also dating, to search for dates for people that you can date and all those things. Do meet up. You can see all of the tools that we use for that are also categorized here, right? You can see Badoo is there, Tinder, Farmers Only, and all whatnot, right? So they are all there, right? So this is just a database of tools, geolocation tools and maps, digital currency, dark web, terrorism, mobile emulation, malicious file analysis, training. So whatever it is you want to search for, you can actually make use of the OSINT framework to search for them, right? So that is the OSINT framework, even as easy as it appears to me. This is just it. So when you start open them into several other tools, right? So you go ahead, then know about it, and then and then try to study some things, try to carry out some information gathering, and then gather information, right? So with this, we'll be stopping the class here for today. I will give room for just some few questions so that we can, call it a day from here, right? So if you have questions, please just indicate by a raise of hand so that we can, right? Any question so far? Please, we want to take just 2 questions. If you have questions, go ahead and ask. Are we still in this class? If you are in this class, please let me know. Binta, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Akoso, are you there? Okay, let's go ahead and ask questions so that we can end the class. 2 questions. No questions?
A question, sir.
Okay, go ahead and ask.
You talked about us limiting the information we post online. Now, in a situation whereby we've already, a lot of our information are already online, is there a way we can maybe minimize or try to control how they are used, or what is already online?
Well, I'm not getting your question correctly. I think you have to take that again.
Yes, sir. I said you've talked about us limiting the information of ourselves that we post online. So I'm asking a situation whereby our information are already online like this. We use Facebook and WhatsApp every day. So is there a way we can try to minimize what is already online? Or as long as they are there is no reverse for that?
And just go there and reduce them, delete them for the now, and stop posting them. You only post these informations when you don't have the full knowledge that this information can actually be used against you, right? But now that we have the full knowledge, it's advised that we remove some of them, although you cannot remove any information that have been posted online cannot be removed completely, right? But it will still require some kind of technical know-how for them to be able to access those information. So you can go ahead and reduce those information, right? And then also, stop giving out too many information about yourself online.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Okay, so let's call it a day. We are actually live. And also the recording will be uploaded and shared to us, so that those of us that weren't in class, we can or not in class rather, will go ahead and look at that and then get to see what we did today. So we'll call it a night here. Have a wonderful night rest, everyone. Bye bye for now.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good night, sir.